Hello and welcome. My name is Heather Baker and I am the founder of Being One. I first want to thank you so much if you are watching this video right now. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check this out. I realize that I have so many new followers and I have not done a video letting you guys know a little bit about myself, which I think is so important. Social media is just full of so many people out there, and I feel like sometimes I don't really know somebody. So I decided I wanted to do this video, introduce myself, tell you about my background a little bit and why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I started my business, what my passion is, and why I'm out here on this crazy internet for all of you. All right. So just a little bit of basic stuff about me. I am 31 years old and I live in Dover, Delaware. I have a 11-year-old daughter named Kaylee. She is in 5th grade and she is going on 21. She has just grown so much over the past couple years, so she definitely keeps me jumping. I also have a boyfriend named Floyd. Just to throw this out there, he is a marketing guru. Check him out. He is also on Instagram, Facebook as Picture More. And he has some great tips out there for marketing and for entrepreneurs. So I definitely have to put that plug in there because without him, this definitely would not be possible. So check that out if you get a chance. Done rant. Okay. We've been dating for a little over a year. And he is just everything. He has helped me so much in my journey, in my personal development journey over the past year or so. He has a 4-year-old son, and we get to spend plenty of time with him as well. So, our little family here, just like any normal people, we hang out, go to the beach, go to the park, nothing real special, okay? But I have a passion for helping people, okay? And that's why I'm here, because I do have this passion. And in order to really explain that, we're going to have to go back in time a little bit. We're going to have to go back to almost 12 years ago when 19-year-old Heather found out that she was pregnant. Yes, 19. This period of time was without a doubt the period of time that changed the track of my life forever. Without my daughter and without the events that were to follow after her birth, I think I definitely would have taken a different track in life. So I always say everything happens for a reason, and I am right where I'm supposed to be right now, and the lessons I've learned were on my path for a reason. So going back this 11 years, I was a sophomore. I had just started my sophomore year at the University of Delaware. It was my second year as a Golden Girl, which is a baton twirler for the marching band. I twirled baton for about 15 years. It was a big part of my life. Did competition twirling, traveled all over the place. Great experience. Took up a lot of my time. At this point in my life, twirling and marching band was for sure my passion. And I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life outside of that. My parents were pushing me to, stay in college. I was really into computers, into computer science, and that's what my dad does. So I was kind of pushed into this computer science major, which I hated, by the way, absolutely hated. I hate math, and I was put in a class, in an advanced math class, and I had no idea what the hell was going on the first day. About freaked out. So needless to say, that did not last long. Also, as a little side note here, I later, after I had Kaylee, dropped out of UD because it was just getting to be too much. I had all these extra bills now and this, whole other life. I was going through a real transitional period and it was really difficult. So I dropped out and started working full time. I did later go back to school down the road from this, and I ended up getting my associates in legal studies. which is why I am a paralegal today during the day. So I do real estate. Real estate transactions here in Delaware are conducted by an attorney, so that's what I do. But back to my story. You'll see I tend to sidetrack a little bit, but I promise I'll get back on track. So here's the kicker. When I found out I was pregnant, I was actually 6.5 months pregnant. Yes, I know. The jaw-dropping response that you have right now was the same response that everybody I have that found out during this time had, that I had, that people now, when I tell them the story, still have, because who doesn't know they're pregnant, right? Trust me, I got it all. I've questioned this myself, but I was spotting throughout this entire period. My period was just a little bit lighter than it normally was. And I was super, super active. I was twirling every day of the week. And for those who don't know, that is an extreme body workout, running all over a football field while twirling a baton, and doing it over and over and over again for several hours. It's exhausting. So I really wasn't gaining that much weight, and the weight that I did gain a little bit, I attributed to just poor eating habits. And I mean, I was in college, I was drinking, unfortunately, so I really didn't think too much of it. My mom, I came home one night, and I mean, there were a few times along the way that I was like, something's not right, but it lasted for a minute and then just kind of passed. I never had morning sickness or any of that kind of stuff. I didn't really have crazy cravings. It was bizarre. But finally my mom was like, we're gonna need you to take a pregnancy test. I think you should take one. And I was like, oh God. So took it, and lo and behold, it was a positive test. My dad was furious. When I took the test at home, I obviously didn't know that I was 6.5 months pregnant. So when I went to my first ultrasound, you can imagine me and my mother's surprise. And on top of it, I was having a child with an African American guy. So that resulted in a whole other bag of issues that I had to deal with my family during this period of time. So that was fun. Again, I digress. So I found out I was pregnant. I found out I was going to have a girl in 2 months. And all of this hit me in the matter of a couple of weeks. So whirlwind, okay? Total whirlwind. And then here's another kicker for you guys. I was not with the father anymore. As you guys will see as my story goes on this evening, I used to have a terrible taste in men, and I loved picking out the bad guys. Her father started to take me down a path that I did not want to be on. Crime and drugs, no thank you. So we had split up probably about 4 months before I found out that I was pregnant. So I was actually about 2 months along at the time, unknowingly. Unfortunately, being my naive self, I had gained a soft spot for him. And we decided that for the baby's sake, we were going to try our relationship again. Because, I have this knack for wanting to change men and wanting to help them out. But again, I was wrong. He did not change. And long story short, he is not and has not been in my daughter's life since then. This was a result of his own choice. He decided that he did not want to be a part of our lives, and he took a different path in life. And I've come to accept that. I've actually recently had the discussion with my daughter about this. And, she is a strong female. She's a kick-ass female, so I know she's going to be okay. She has me standing behind her and my unwavering support. So we are just fine without him. I will say we are both very thankful to have Floyd in our lives. He has not only been great with me, but he has been awesome, kind of stepping in as a father figure in Kaylee's life. And I know she just adores him. So that just helps this whole situation so much. So here I was, 19 years old, single mother, completely unaware of the responsibility of being a parent and raising a child. I could barely take care of myself. I couldn't cook. My mother had basically done everything for me all my life. So taking care of a baby was a completely foreign topic for me. I was dealing with postpartum depression. I felt like nobody would ever want me. I was going to be alone for the rest of my life, because who would want to be with somebody who had a child at 19, you know? These are all the things that I was telling myself. None of this I believe is true now, of course. You know, I've grown up, I've matured since then. But these are the things that I thought. Nobody's going to want to be with me. I already have a baby. I'm tainted. Those were the thoughts that were going through my brain. And then, just like in a movie, in walks Prince Charming, my ex-husband. Yes, he is my ex-husband. We met on MySpace when my daughter was about 3 months old. And he pretty much stepped into this role of father immediately. She actually did not know that he was not her father until recently, after the divorce. But I mean, he was everything that I thought I needed at that time. He accepted my daughter. He thought I was beautiful. He told me everything that I wanted to hear. Like, I was no girl that he had ever been with before, that I was so sexy. And mind you, I had major self-esteem issues at the time. So for him to be telling me how beautiful and sexy I was like, oh my God. Shoot, I thought nobody would ever think I was beautiful or sexy again. You know, he told me that I was wife material. Like I said, he didn't care about my daughter. He talked about a future, and how he was looking for a future wife and not just something casual, you know, and that he wanted kids. Everything that I wanted to hear and that I was looking for was there, and I was vulnerable at the time. And within 2 months of dating, we were engaged. 2 months. What the hell was I thinking? Looking back now, I question this, and again, everything happens for a reason. I definitely learned so many life lessons throughout this period of time. But again, after 2 months, what was I thinking? We did have a 2-year engagement to follow that, but still. So every fight that happened in those 2 years was justified by the fact that we were engaged and that I was going to be his wife, and we couldn't break a commitment. And let me tell you, those fights, they happened often. And that was just the beginning. I should have seen the signs back then, but I was dumb and in love and thought that everything he did was out of love. We always made up after each fight, and he was always so loving during that period of reconciliation that it kind of overpowered everything else. And I just kind of forgot about everything else. Although eventually the bad times would start again. We'd start fighting. And I kind of just believe that this is how, you know, a relationship was supposed to work. A marriage was supposed to work. That we were normal. I grew up with parents who fought, so I knew that marriage was hard and that people argued. It was just kind of a fact of married life that you argued with your spouse. And I accepted this excuse for years. And I told myself that this is how things were supposed to be. I justified everything that he did, everything that he said, into this is how it's supposed to be. Now, I will not sit here and say that I didn't make any mistakes, because I certainly did. I take my part, my role in this, and everything that happened between us and our divorce. But we all make mistakes. And we all do things that we regret sometimes, that we wish we could take back. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we make bad mistakes, our loved ones are the ones that pay for it the most. The thing is, we have to learn from these mistakes, and we have to grow from them. And when you're in a relationship, you also need to learn forgiveness, and you have to learn communication in order to get through these issues, in order to grow from them. Unfortunately, our relationship had none of these things. It wasn't until after we divorced that I was able to recognize that he was a narcissist. And all of the signs were there the entire time. He constantly focused on my mistakes and not his own. He never made mistakes. If I brought up his mistakes, he would turn it right back around onto mine. He expected me to read his mind, and he would get angry at me if I didn't. So if I went to the grocery store and got the wrong thing that he was telepathically telling me he wanted, and I got something else, all hell broke loose. He would always need to have the upper hand, and usually he would do this by saying something that would hurt my feelings. He would monitor my phone, my calls, my texts, but then he'd get extremely defensive and angry if I had tried to do the same. And mind you, I was not allowed to have a password on my phone, but I was also not allowed to have his password to his phone, to the lock that he had on his phone. He constantly monitored my time and my whereabouts, just the same as the phone, but I could never ask questions about where he was or what he was doing because it would anger him and he would not come home. So he, kind of bred me, and taught me basically that if I asked questions, he wasn't going to come home. And he knew that that hurt me. And he used that against me a lot. He would constantly disregard my opinions, my ideas, my suggestions, everything. I was a woman to be seen and not heard. My opinions did not matter. He would constantly make jokes at my expense. If you ask anybody that hung out with us, there was always some joke that I was the butt of, all the time. And he would somehow twist it around and make it almost funny enough to where I believe that he was really just being funny. And even worse, he swore at me and called me names constantly, even in front of friends. Hey bitch, get over here. You fucking bitch. He called me names so much that I started to believe that it was just kind of our special way of showing love to each other. That's how messed up I was in my mind at that time. I believe that him calling me a bitch was him saying that I love you. That's how much he twisted me. He would tease me to make me feel bad. He tore down who I was as a person and made me feel like I was never enough. Constantly compared me to other people. Why can't you do this? She does that. Why don't you wear this? She wears that. Why don't you, he would constantly compare me to a porn star. And if I didn't perform at a porn star level, I would hear about it. Talking always turned into arguing. Arguing always turned into screaming. And screaming sometimes turned into violence. And it got to the point that I just couldn't do it anymore. I spent 10 years of my life with a man who treated me as if I was worth less than the dirt on his shoe. And he actually said that to me one time. He actually told me that he respected me less than the dirt on his shoe. I spent 10 years of my life with a man who never truly loved me, who molded me to be who he wanted me to be, and made me disguise my true self. He made me feel as if my true self was something to be ashamed of. He never respected me. He refused to even spend time with me. He tore me apart in so many ways. I spent years wondering what I was doing with him. But I was scared. I was too scared to leave. Because he had threatened me more than once if I had left, what would happen? I'd have no friends. I would never be with someone again. Nobody would ever love me. I'm lucky he loves me and that he puts up with me. We always made up, and it would be good for, a couple weeks or maybe a month or so before it got bad again. We separated 3 times in those 10 years, and it wasn't until the 4th time that I actually stuck. Mind you, cops had to be involved 2 of those 3 times. And I tried so hard to make it work over those 10 years. But nothing ever changed. It didn't matter what I did, what I said, bending over backwards to try to make him happy, constantly trying to make him happy. I put so much effort into trying to make him happy. But it didn't matter. He still treated me the same way. Now, in the midst of that whole relationship, I lost 2 babies. In June of 2012, right after I had finally graduated from Del Tech, I was ecstatic to be having another baby and to be doing it the right way. You know, I was married, I was with somebody who loved me, you know, and I didn't have that in my first pregnancy. I was really only pregnant 2 months in my head, well, 3 months in my head. He wasn't there for the birth, you know, he wasn't there afterwards. We didn't get to have those moments of me and him at home with the baby. You know, so I was excited to have those moments with somebody that I cared about. When I found out in June of 2012 that I was pregnant and I went to my first ultrasound, the surprise of this ultrasound wasn't quite the same as the surprise of the first. The surprise of my second ultrasound, well, my first ultrasound for the second baby, was that I had a tubal pregnancy. So for those of you who don't know, that means that the fertilized egg gets stuck in the tube that, you know, that the egg will travel to the placenta. No. You know what I'm talking about. When the tube travels. The egg got stuck in there, which is obviously not a good place for a baby to grow. So they sent me to the hospital right from the ultrasound, and they put me in emergency surgery, and they had to remove the tube and the baby. Now, they rushed me into surgery because a tubal pregnancy can be life-threatening for the mother because the tube can burst, causing internal bleeding. So they had to remove the tube before that happened. Unfortunately, about a year later, during my third pregnancy, we didn't know it was a tubal pregnancy until it was too late. My tube, the only tube I had at the time, burst, causing another emergency surgery to remove the tube and the baby. That loss and dealing with all that is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. And I know that there are millions of women out there that struggle with fertility and, you know, are dying to have another baby. And I'm here with you. I understand your pain. I understand your struggle. You know, I was an emotional wreck during that time. You know, we had told people that I was pregnant and that we were having a baby. And, you know, people would ask me afterwards how I was. So I was constantly forced to relive the pain, relive the heartache. And, you know, of course, I had absolutely no support from him. None. And, you know, this eventually made me hard. This big heart that I once had become so hardened by the pain of losing 2 babies and the pain from being completely torn apart from my husband, the person that I loved most. And on top of having zero support from him during this time, it was rough. I felt as though I lost myself for a long time when I lost those babies. Now, on top of dealing with that pain, my husband decided that, well, he was convinced that I had cheated and that the babies weren't his. And that's why he was not supportive during those times. He was totally sure that he was he was sterile, because we had been together for 5 years prior to that and didn't use protection, and I never got pregnant. He just didn't understand and didn't believe that something like that could happen, that I could get pregnant. He was unwilling to listen to anything I had to say about the situation. And he probably still to this day believes that I cheated on him during those times. So to say the least, that just tore us apart even more. And at this point, I have become so immune to the bullshit that he threw my way, it didn't even affect me anymore. Like I said, I was completely hardened. I just kind of took what he threw at me and went about my day because that was my life. That was normal. That's just what it was. I was in a constant loop, and it had absolutely no happiness. It had absolutely no love in it. So I was miserable. I hated my life. I hated myself. He had brainwashed me into thinking that all of this was my fault. So of course I'd constantly be tearing myself apart inside while he's tearing me apart, coming at me. It was not until I discovered the power of personal development, the power of self-reflection, the power of meditation, and the power of getting help that I realized what he was doing to me. It was not until this time that I actually realized what was going on. And this was about 9 years into the relationship where I started having this mind shift, and I started seeing things that I didn't see before, and I started realizing that what he was doing wasn't right. I had to peel back layers and layers of insecurities and lies and pain and discomfort so that I could actually be receptive to the things that my friends and my family had been trying to tell me for years. Because they had been trying to tell me for years that he was a terrible guy. I lost friends, I lost family over him. I didn't see my parents for like a year. And the only reason I saw them was because I went by myself. I was torn apart from everybody. And that's what narcissists do. They pull you away from everybody so that you don't have that feedback from other people, so that they can fully control you. Now, once I started having this change in mindset and started really doing reflection on what was going on, and really started digging deep and journaling and writing out my feelings, things started to become harder and harder, because I went from hating myself because I was worthless and because I was not enough to hating myself because I was so stupid and that I let him treat me that way. So the self-love still wasn't there. It was still something that needed to be repaired. But I was starting on my way. I was making nightly trips to the bathroom just to cry. I was so unhappy and so exhausted that I had a breakdown every single night for months. This happened during several periods of our relationship, but the worst was absolutely towards the end, when I finally started to come to realize all of these things that he was doing to me. When I finally took those blinders off and saw the truth of what I was putting myself through, what I was allowing someone else to do to me, like I said, I felt stupid. I felt naive. Everything that he constantly told me. I believed everything that he told me so far down to my core that to this day, there are still things that I struggle with. There are still things that trigger me and give me anxiety. There are still times where I remember certain things that happened and it makes me stop in my tracks. I struggle with these past experiences. And I have a form of like an emotional PTSD because of these things that have happened to me. And it's even crossed into my new relationship. We might disagree about something, and I immediately jump to defensive mode. I start getting angry, I start jumping to conclusions, I start screaming, and he's not a screamer. Floyd is not a screamer. He is very calm, very level-headed. So when I start doing that, I look like a real crazy person. Okay, before when I was with my ex, it was more like crazy met crazy, but now it's like crazy and it's like, no, he's not having it. You know, so he makes me realize what I'm doing. It makes me, I take those couple notches down. But this learned response of jumping to conclusions and jumping on the defense, it's a completely involuntary. And it's taken me a long time to even notice the signs, let alone to start to reel it back in. There have been certain times where I've seen a certain place or hear a song and it just triggers a memory that just takes me back. And, I've been brought to tears just from listening to a song. It's hard to get through this. But here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Through all of this struggle, through all of this pain, I have discovered so much about myself, about mental health, and about life in general. Because we weren't put on this earth to be in these bad relationships and to be unhappy. We weren't put on this earth to, live these Groundhog Days and not do anything and not fulfill our passions and not do things that bring us joy. I tell you all of this so that you can fully understand my why I do what I do. I have learned how to create my own happiness and not rely on someone else to make me happy. I don't put that burden on someone else. That burden's on me. That work starts on the inside. Being happy starts here. I've become in tune with who I am as a person, which has helped me to accept my true self, because I didn't accept who she was before. I didn't accept this version of me because I thought this version of me was wrong. And I can now honestly say that every day I live as my true, authentic self without any masks, and I have no regret. I've gained confidence, I've gained self-esteem, and I've broken through all the lies that I once believed that had me thinking otherwise. The lies that he created that I believed down to my core. I've learned how to set goals and how to move past these things and to grow. I've learned how to motivate myself to be better and to compete with who I was yesterday. And I strive for happiness and personal success instead of perfection and acceptance. Now, if I've learned anything throughout this whole transformation, throughout my whole journey, it's that I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. I know that there are many people out there that struggle with similar things, whether it's put on you from another person or whether these beliefs come just from life experience and your own thoughts. You may have failed at a test and, told yourself you were stupid for the rest of your life, never trying to accomplish anything again. It doesn't have to come from another person. We have enough negative self-talk. But I know I'm not the only one with problems, and I know I'm not the only one who's felt lost, and I know I'm not the only one who has lost touch with themselves and didn't know who they were anymore. I know there are plenty of you out there that have had those feelings before, which is why I'm not ashamed to share my story, because I know that you guys can relate. I know that you guys have felt at one point or another in your life some feeling of not being enough, not being smart enough, anything, any lie that we tell ourselves. I know you guys have them too. Which is why, even though I do strive for my own happiness and my own success, I also strive to bring this mindset to all of you. I want to bring this mindset to women everywhere. I want women to realize that they are more than what other people has made them to believe that they are. I want women to believe in themselves and their dreams. I want women to understand that they can create their own happiness with or without someone else in their life. I want women to know that they are not stuck, that you can make changes, that you can grow, that you can accomplish amazing things in this life. I am proud of the person that I've become, and without the struggle and the pain that I've gone through, I wouldn't be me. Without the life lessons that I've had, without these lessons that I've shared with you, these experiences that I've shared with you and opened up with you about today, I would not be the woman that I am. I want to change how you look at your struggles. I want you to view them as opportunities and possibilities, the opportunities that they are, the opportunity for you to learn and for you to change and for you to grow, for you to become better than you were yesterday. I want to help women see this opportunity and the possibilities that are available to them, because the possibilities are endless. I want to help women unlock their full potential by using their past as a lesson and the motivation that it is. Women are powerful creatures. We are badasses. We endure so much, and we have the power to keep going every single day. We may not believe that we do sometimes, but you do. You have it in you. You just have to unlock the belief and the power of your own power. And this is totally and completely possible. I want to help you get there. I hope that this video has helped you gain some insight into who I am, the message that I want to bring the world, and what I want to do for all of you. Again, I want to truly thank you for watching this video and for following me. I want you guys to comment below, comment with your insights, your own life experiences. If you can relate, I want to hear about it, okay? I want to hear from all of you. Thanks, guys.